2009 Central Region LEAD team. We hope that you were able to attend our first webinar in November, which focused on the topic of servant leadership. If not, you can access that webinar and the resources which followed it on the Central Region intranet. We'll give you that address today. We plan to roll straight through the presentation today, leaving ample time for questions and comments at the end. And so right now, we'd just like to take a moment to ask every office to double and triple check your phones and make sure that they're on mute. Everybody in attendance will enjoy the experience much more if we can eliminate all the background noise. So if we're ready to press on, we'll introduce ourselves. I'm Stephanie Kolbis in Marquette, Michigan.
I'm Kelly Krumlick from Aberdeen, South Dakota.
I'm Lisa Schmidt in Chanhassen, Minnesota.
And I'm Beth Cunup in Topeka, Kansas.
Today we'll be talking about core values. And before we begin, we'd like to give you a brief overview of the topics that we'll touch upon. We'll develop a definition of core values and talk about why they're important. And we'll also look at some examples of what can happen in our lives when we choose to identify and adhere to our core values and what can happen when we don't. We'll take a look at why we should identify our personal core values and then step through a methodology which you can later use on your own for doing just that. We'll discuss some potential areas for values conflicts in life. And finally, we'll look at how you can live out your core values in every area of your life. Hearing the term core values may evoke a variety of responses in each of us. We're not here to say that the images evoked in you when you hear the term core values are not correct, but it is possible that you have another idea about core values than the specific focus on them which we plan to discuss today. We've planned this webinar around the idea that identifying and adhering to a set of personal core values will better equip a person to lead others, because a person living in this manner is predictable and purposeful. So let's take a look at some of the definitions which might commonly come to mind when the term core values is used. We'll show you that some of the common definitions are, in a sense, cold, not even close to our focus in this webinar. And yet some others point to exactly what we'll be talking about. So let's take a look. This definition states that a core value is a guiding principle of an organization espoused by senior management and accepted by employees, often reflected in the mission statement of the organization. Core values influence the culture and are normally long-standing beliefs. This definition, taken from businessdictionary.com, is not wrong, but it's not what we're focusing on today. It doesn't fit well because it focuses on the organization rather than leaders as individuals. In addition, it suggests that some group of managers creates the operating culture of a workplace simply by developing a statement. It ignores the hugely important component of putting value statements into practice and encouraging the desired culture to grow over time through that implementation. Now, these definitions are better. The first definition you'll see here acknowledges that core values define beliefs which guide what we put into practice. And the second reveals that our core values are the root which drives what we think, say, and do. But these definitions aren't perfect yet. They're still organizationally focused. So let's take another stab at it. And here's what we're looking for. Today's discussion of core values will be specifically focused on how you can become a better leader through putting this definition into action in your own life. It says that a core value is a key concept or ideal that guides a person's life and helps him or her to make important decisions. We hope to show you today that identifying your own personal core values and then adhering to them in all areas of your life is a prerequisite for authentic leadership. First, let's talk about where our core values come from and why they're so very important. Core values are certainly personal. They vary from individual to individual within organizations, groups, cultures, and even within families. They're instilled over time, beginning from your childhood, even infancy, with input from many different sources. Ideally, core values continue to be formulated and honed intentionally as we learn and grow throughout life. So let's ponder for a moment the ways that our core values have been instilled in us in our lifetimes and how they continue to be shaped as we grow. Our core values are instilled and formulated over a lifetime. Many outside influences, in fact, nearly every influence in your life, has the potential to shape your personal core values. especially early in life. We can always evaluate and work to change our core values if they're not in alignment with what we'd like them to be, but the older we get, the more of a concerted effort this is likely to take. All of these influences combined develop within you a compass of sorts, which you use to guide yourself through daily decision making. We all have one, although for each of us, our true north may be somewhat different, based on the priorities and preferences that have been instilled in us by others, and which we formulated within ourselves. Indeed, we all have core values. Each of us have been exposed to a myriad of influences and experiences during our lifetimes. The question we'd like to ask you today are simply, have you identified your core values, and are you following them? To help us take an honest look at these questions, let's first talk about why core values matter if we are to be leaders.
Identifying our core values is essential because they are the substance which guides our response in all situations. When we've identified our core values and made them visible to others, and then when we follow up by adhering to them, we can, over time, build trust. Trust is built on the small things of daily life. People seeing your character through your actions and responses, and seeing you follow through and be a person of your word. This building of trust leads to an ability to influence others, which is the only path to true leadership. Let's listen for a moment to Bill George speak about the idea of having a true north within us and what can happen if we lose sight of that direction. Bill George is a professor at Harvard Business School where he teaches leadership development. He is the former chairman and CEO of Medtronic. He serves as a director of ExxonMobil and Goldman Sachs, and has served as a business leader within the organizations of Honeywell, Litton, and Target.
So, Bill, you've just written a book titled True North. What does True North refer to?
True North is who you are at your deepest level, all the things that go into making you a unique human being on this earth, from your family of origin to your background to the people who influenced you along the way and all the things you've had as experiences. The reason we pick True North is because many people, as they go off and face the pressures and seductions of the real world, lose sight of who they are in trying to be something different than they are or complying with these various pressures.
You have just heard Bill say that it is possible to go in a direction other than where our internal compass is pointing us, and we know this to be true. It is easy to get caught up in an unprincipled environment, and that makes identifying and being able to articulate what your core values are all the more important. We've established that we all have core values, for better or for worse. We all have had influences which have shaped us who we are today. If we don't like that shape, then we need to address that. But for many of us, it's the daily battle to stay true to our compass which is most difficult. And if we consistently stray from what we hold dear, then our compass is effectively broken.